What's up, guys? This is Cash Shake, Chairman, CEO, and co-founder of Baseball United, the first professional baseball league in the history of the Middle East and South Asia. And you're watching the Legends on Deck podcast with my boys, Brian Koss and David Conde.
Welcome to episode 89 of the Legends on Deck podcast. I'm Brian Koss, along with my co-host David Conde, and our third Legends on Deck representative, Jeremy Cerone.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, guys. How you doing today?
And this will be one of those special episodes of the LOD podcast because we are not bringing on a guest to interview. We've done this once or twice where we've brought our just the LOD home team on to talk about the season, how it's progressed, what's going on, and just kind of share some of our own insights on it. I think we're used to doing this in a written format. David and I were talking and I said, we're always, when we do a podcast episode, it's always us, formulating questions for the guest, and then the guest is kind of taking the episode, which is the way we've kind of designed those episodes, because I think they're very insightful in that way. We're trying to learn from them. But as writers and guys that follow baseball, we like to have our own voices heard as well. So I'm hoping we could sprinkle these in between our interviews and build out some content based on our thoughts on the baseball season and the game in general.
Yeah, it could be that we're not AI bots, right? We're not just sitting here asking questions. We actually have our own thoughts
about
the game and what's going on.
Exactly right. So here's what we're going to do. We've pre-selected 5 topics that we're going to cover and kind of run with those topics. There's a lot to cover. We're sitting here at the middle to end of June now, just midway through June, a little bit later. And we've seen a lot of baseball already. So there's a lot to comment on, a lot of things that we might have been right about and a lot of things we might have been wrong about coming into the season, right? So that's kind of where we're going to start. We're going to take a look back to our preseason predictions. All of us made on our site, all our writers made predictions. We're going to look at the 3 of us and take a look at what did we get right, what did we get wrong. David, you want to bring it up for us?
Yep.
We're going to take a look at our predictions. I have in mind what I think I did well at and what I didn't do. But we'll start with David.
So it's perfect because it's just us 3 right here. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we go.
So let's see. The American League, I figured the Red Sox were gonna have a solid year. They had Bergman, Devers. I mean, obviously we'll talk about that Devers situation a little later in the show, but having him and they brought in Bueller and Tristan Casas, I just felt like that team was gonna be strong. And obviously, if we look at the standings, they're almost down. They're about 1 game over 500 right now, almost a second to last place right now, so that's not happening. I picked the Tigers. I think a lot of us were filling on that one, and the Tigers probably have still the best record in baseball right now, pretty much. So that was a good pick for me. Then I have the Rangers in the West, and actually the Rangers in the West, they're kind of in third place, only a game under 500, not living up to what I think we might have. I might have thought they would have done with the offense and the pitching. I mean, DeGrom's having a great season, and I kind of picked him as a comeback player of the year. So I thought maybe that was gonna they were gonna they may have a better second half, but the first half is not going for them. Then I picked the wild card for the Blue Jays, Yankees, and Royals. So the Yankees are actually the ones on top right now, even though they're kind of been struggling the last 4 games. I think they've lost 4 in a row, I believe, not 5 in a row, and not doing too well right now. But they got a manageable lead maybe or not, as the Rays are trying to come strong 2.5 games out. The Royals, which I really felt like that was going to be, after what they did last year, they're going to come out and be strong, and they're not anywhere near the top. So that's another one going against me. So I'm kind of 0 for 4 right now, maybe. And then the Blue Jays, I just thought with their roster and their guys, Vlad Jr. were going to have a good year. Bichette was going to have a good year. And the Blue Jays are, they're in third place. They've been playing a little bit better. But, maybe they'll sneak in on the wild card and get that spot. So then in the National League, I had the Braves. I just felt like the Braves would do last year. They had a lot of injuries. They just didn't play up to where they should have been. Um, and I felt like this year was going to be their year. I can say right now, I kind of really feel like they are mimicking what the Mets did last year, where they're kind of, in that area where, they can kind of take off. They've been playing a little bit better. They actually took a game from the Mets yesterday. They should not have won. The Mets just kind of gave that one away. So I kind of feel like the Braves are really we're on Tuesday, I'm sorry. No, we're on Wednesday, so that would have been Tuesday game. I think the Braves are, they might make that run to try to get back in it. In the Central, the Brewers are right. I mean, they're 6.5 games behind the Cubs. The Cubs are just, on fire. So, that can go either way right now. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. Everyone's picked them to win it all. They've struggled with their pitching. Everyone's kind of been hurt. So, they're still on top. They're still on top of the West, but I think that's going to be a little tight second half for a couple of teams on that side. And then I picked the Pirates as a wild card. I don't know. I kind of felt like the Pirates were going to maybe turn it around this year and be a playoff contending team, and they're in dead last. Phillies, I feel like they're gonna be there. They're right behind them. They're right in the Mets' heels. The Mets are not playing well, and the Phillies are playing better. So I think those two teams are gonna battle, and then my Mets. I felt like the Mets kind of, came into the season. They were going to have a good year. I felt like, of course, the addition of Soto, this is the stuff we picked before the season started. So I kind of felt like the addition of Soto was going to keep them, viable for postseason. I did not see coming what they've been doing, but, they're coming back down to earth right now. That's another episode that I will discuss what I think is the fall of the Mets right now. And I might get canceled for talking about it. But at the end of the day, the Mets, it's their pitching is kind of like struggling right now, and maybe they'll hold off and get the wild card. I don't know. Kind of seeing where we're going with the roster, unless we make some major moves by the All-Star break. I really don't see them being as dominant as they're shown to be. I just think pitching is a big thing in the league, and if you can't hold a lead late in the game, then you're not going to win many games when it really counts. So there goes my picks, and I'm probably gonna get one or two of these right when the season's over.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest, we're all kind of a mixed bag so far, right? So yeah, going through mine, so I'm just gonna be brief. I had a lot of people, we know I'm a Tigers fan, right? So I had a lot of people tell me, you are very optimistic about the Tigers. And I said, I don't really say it out of the fact that I want them to be good. I obviously was hoping the Tigers would have a good season, but I didn't see any reason to think that they wouldn't be good. So they have, in my mind, maybe overperformed a little, but I don't think they've overperformed. I think they've played at a level that I've expected them to play, right? Tarek Skubal's still the best pitcher in baseball. Their starting rotation, they lost Jackson Jobe recently. But their starting rotation's been strong. They are getting hits. Like Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Kerry Carpenter have all got around 15 home runs right now. So they are producing. And I think a lot of people were skeptical of the Tigers' offense. I was much more optimistic about the Tigers' offense, and they've proved me right so far. I think I heard that as long as they go 500 the rest of the way, they're gonna have 90 something wins. So they're almost assuredly a postseason team. If not, if they don't win the division, that would be one thing. But somebody else could get hot. But I'm pretty confident on the Tigers. I would still pick them as my World Series team. The Orioles, I think I got real wrong. I like the Orioles. I like their young players. They just haven't done it, right? I think the problem the Orioles have is they invested almost nothing in pitching. They've got and Gunnar Henderson started this season on the injured list too. He's been a little bit slower to come back. Jackson Holiday's had a decent season so far. I mean, they look okay. They're starting to actually produce runs, but they fell way behind real early, and I don't see them making the postseason this year at all. The Red Sox are another one. I think we all overestimated what the Red Sox can do based on their rotation, and then based on their young players. I will say this, and we're going to get into Devers trade later. Of course, we've already mentioned it twice, but I like the Red Sox futures. I like the Red Sox futures for the same way I like the Orioles futures. So we'll see. But I don't think they're making the postseason this year. And the Rangers are kind of iffy. I will say I wasn't totally wrong about the Angels. The Angels are hanging in there. They're 35-37. That still puts them in wild card contention. I think Ron Washington is an amazing coach. And I think they have young players that a lot of people aren't getting attention, are paying attention to. So the Angels are still hanging in there. Will they make the postseason? No idea, but I wasn't that far off if they do. And then National League, I was pretty high on the Cubs. I actually debated whether or not the Cubs would go deeper. I picked Dodgers over Braves in the NLCS, but the Braves, I agree with you, David. I still think the Braves have an opportunity right now to turn a corner, get right back into it. But we'll see. It seems like they do it for a few games and then they fall off again. There seems to be something missing with that team. I'm not actually sure what it is because they have hitters and they have pitchers. Their bullpen is pretty bad, but they could contend still. I'm high on the Cubs still. I'm still confident about. I still think your Mets are fine. I think the Phillies are good. I think I have the Diamondbacks in there, and the Diamondbacks, they're in a tough division. They're 36-36 right now. I mean, the Giants, I think, have overperformed a little bit, but maybe they're actually pretty good. So now they got Devers over there. The Giants are going to be adding probably at the deadline, so maybe the Giants are the surprise team. But will the Dodgers go back to the World Series? We all seem to pick the Dodgers to go back and win. I will say at this point, I'd be surprised if the Dodgers win the World Series this year. Because I think they're good. I think they should, but I don't think they're going to. So that's my mid-season or 40% through the season bold predictions. Dodgers don't win the World Series. I think I'm wrong on it from the beginning of the year. But Jeremy, why don't you go?
Well, I'll say sorry I took so much time speaking. That was a perfect scenario summary. So I love your summary, but anyway.
We're good. We all got our own style.
Yeah, so there's I've written about this on the site before actually. Colin Cowherd is kind of one of my favorite sports commentators, and he actually has one of my favorite segments that he does is where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong. So this is our version here in Legends on Deck. I would say that the two things I want to lead off on were the biggest area where I was right and the biggest area where I was wrong. I was definitely right about the Cubs and the roster improvements they made. Externally, and frankly, the Cubs have done even better than I expected. Like I did think, that they would have,
Jeremy,
a strong season. I picked them to win. Yes.
Go back for a second to where you started talking.
We missed a little piece of you. You cut out for a second. Your internet must have cut out. So you said you were right about the Cubs and the roster changes.
Yeah, where do you want? Is that where you want me to start? We're talking about
the Cubs. What did you want to say specifically about the Cubs?
Okay, yeah.
You keep
so the biggest thing that I was right on was the Chicago Cubs. They actually have done even better than I expected. I was right about looking at the impact of their internal improvements from inside the organization as well as their external improvements for their roster. And but they have really done even a lot better than I anticipated. Competing at the top of the National League, not just the NL West teams and the NL East teams, fighting for that. Going into the season, I thought that the NL Central would be overall just head and shoulders weaker than the other two divisions. I only had one team from the whole division making the playoffs, but to some degree I had the Cubs winning, not by default, but I thought everybody else would either, like the Brewers, take a step back or not be ready yet. The rebuilding Cardinals, the rebuilding Pirates, and I have a very good friend that's a Cubs fan, and the past couple weeks he keeps sending me screenshots of the standings and making the joke from the song "Go Cubs Go" about the Cubs having the power and speed to be the best in the National League. But then, of course, the Phillies crushed the Cubs, when they just faced each other. So I had my chance to fire back, and then. The biggest thing that I was wrong about was what I did not write, actually more than what I wrote. Just on paper, it looks like, the biggest thing I was wrong about was the Red Sox, winning the AL East. But in my mind, it was excluding the Yankees from the playoffs altogether. Okay, because I was big in a much bigger meta sense about the division. Because I had two teams going to the playoffs from the AL East, the Red Sox and the Orioles. And I thought that the AL East was a 2-horse race between them. I thought the Yankees would take a giant step back after the absolute crushing defeat in the World Series, plus the injuries they had. In spring training, plus the loss of Juan Soto, I overestimated as well. So those would be the two biggest things that stand out to me in terms of where I was right and where I was wrong. The Colin Cowherd, where Jeremy was right, where Jeremy was wrong.
Well, we are all wrong on the Red Sox, so that it's probably good news to one of our other writers, Aaron, who is a big Yankees fan. So I think he would appreciate your calling you out on your lack of faith in the New York Yankees. So I'm going to move to another topic, also related. I think Jeremy may be frozen again. There he is.
There I am. Yeah,
there you are.
I'm
going to move on. Oh, I don't know. Well, hopefully we'll get it fixed up. MLB's TV ratings are much higher this season. I'm reading anywhere from like 25 to 35% higher than they've been in previous years. Very, and there could be a number of factors that account for that. But we're going to just go around. What do you think would be the biggest boost to MLB ratings, or why are more people tuned in this year than have been in previous years? David, you want to take a shot at that one?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I was thinking when you posed that topic to us is maybe the Aaron Judge Ohtani race to the home run race. I mean, I've been putting out posts out there about Barry Bonds' midseason record of 39 home runs at the break, and here you have Aaron Judge at 26, Ohtani with 22. But it's funny, it's not just them, right? You have Cal Raleigh has 27 home runs. We're on June 18th. You have Kyle Schwarber has 22. And, these are guys that probably hit this many during the break anyway, somewhere around there. But you have some other guys, other teams where guys are, coming on. You have Pete Crow Armstrong has 19 home runs. So I think seeing the Cubs playing well, seeing some other teams that we just mentioned what was right and wrong. We had the teams that we thought were going to be there because they're the powerhouses, and they have some
Right.
other teams that are sneaking in and just kind of like, taking the limelight away and really like, just getting on stage now. So I think that right there, just kind of bringing more people into it. The funny thing is, just mention this. So prior to the season, the Mets owner was kind of made a comment like, why are you not coming out to the games? Why are we not like, packing the house? We have all this great talent, great things that we're producing at the stadium. We should be packing the house. And the result has been the Mets are packing the house. Like, they're playing well. Soto's there,
Right.
but they're packing the house. So I just think people, maybe we're away from the whole happened with COVID when everything got shut down. We're 5 years from that, right? And now people kind of getting back into the game. I think maybe some of the rule changes they may like and kind of see the game is moving a little bit quicker and kids are, getting more. There's more things for kids at the game. So my thought process is that, the home run race right now is exciting. And I just think there's some exciting teams out there that people are just really interested about.
I agree with that. Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah. When I was thinking about it, I came up with two things. Although I definitely agree with David. Although this actually, the first point I'm going to make is something where David and I tend to disagree, which is that I think baseball's new rule changes make it lean and lively, just what TV audiences want. The pace of play rules, the pitch clock, the larger bases, stolen base incentives, the shift bans. The games are about half an hour shorter, and you'll see relatedly that attendance is significantly up in the 18 to 34 demo. And then the second thing that I wanted to point out was the increased international attention on baseball, particularly, of course, when it comes to, Japan.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
Now it's not just, I mean, even, when I was a lot younger, there were a few Japanese players, obviously the great Ichiro, there was, Matsui, but now, there's, more and more, and there's there and it's expanding a lot. I mean, they couldn't have picked two better teams than the Dodgers and Cubs to send over there, and also for real games that count as well, not simply exhibition games, which the NFL has also been doing recently as well.
The one thing I want to jump on what he just said with the bigger bases, I forgot about that. And we still have collisions in the base. We still have issues where people, I mean, I don't really know what the bigger bases really did. I mean, why they even changed that? To me, it was just like, I mean, I guess it's one of the things they felt like, I don't know, more space to get to. I don't know. That was one of the quirky ones, right? I don't understand why. What was the
they did sell it as player safety, but I think it had a lot more to do with the bigger bases just give like a couple more inches of a couple less inches, I should say, of a shorter distance, so more of those bang bang close calls end up as safe calls instead of out calls.
That's why the umpires are so bad this year. Sorry, Adam.
Yeah. Well, no, that's a great point. So looking at the stats, right? So we have the league leaders in stolen bases right now are 25, are tied at 25, and that's O'Neill Cruz and Cabarillo from the Rays, and then Pete Crow Armstrong's at 23, Elliot De La Cruz and Bobby Wood Jr., Luis Robert are tied at 21. But that means that, you double those numbers. I think you're going to more than double those numbers, actually, because we're not quite halfway through. But just say you double the numbers, you may have multiple guys over 50 stolen bases. I can't remember the last time that's happened. And then you're going to get guys, like an Ellie De La Cruz has got 16 home runs too. So he's probably your 30-30 guy, right? You've got all that possibility. It makes the game a little like you had mentioned, David, faster paced and quicker, keeps audiences attention, because you lose a lot of people when you have a 3.5 hour game. So that helps a lot. And I also think your point about international viewers, Jeremy, was great. I didn't even think about that as being a driver of ratings, but that's definitely true. And the star power, right? So Shohei Ohtani, international star, but also a big star. He's, if you notice, the one thing that MLB, in my opinion, has been lacking for many years is star power, right? Are there athletes in Major League Baseball that kids or fans outside of Major League Baseball, your casual sports fan, know and identify with? Or are, Shohei Ohtani is now that guy, right? And Aaron Judge is that guy too. So that's something that Major League Baseball has lacked for a while. Shohei Ohtani is now doing advertisements for video games and all this and non-baseball video games. And he's kind of seeped into the general culture more. So I think it's really beneficial to baseball. You know, yeah, do we have to talk about Judge and Ohtani more often? Yeah. We're probably going to talk about them, like David said, all summer, because both of those guys are going to probably hit over 50 home runs and maybe 60. So we're going to be looking at a home run race maybe late in the season as well. Not to take away from Ohtani. You notice Ohtani just pitched the other night too. He threw an inning.
That helped my stats
Judge
on my
may win.
fantasy team. My fantasy
Did you
team
see?
got a
Oh,
little
you picked
boost
him
on
up for
that.
pitching?
Yeah.
He actually threw a decent inning. He threw up to 100 miles an hour. But I think that
Yeah, I'll admit I didn't
my
think
one
that was going to
prediction was
happen
that
this season, to be
Judge
honest.
may win the Triple Crown this year too.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Brian, I interrupted. I was just trying to say, yeah, I didn't think Ohtani would actually pitch the season. So,
No, I think
let
that
alone
was
before the
exciting.
All-Star break.
Well, the way the Dodgers are going, a lot of guys might start pitching.
True.
I want to make one point about the international thing, which this is a little international because it's in a part of the world that baseball is not huge, but the Baseball United effect. I'm starting to think that everyone's starting to look at that like they're starting to put get more traction. But who do they have on their team? Ex MLB players, Hall of Famers. You start watching those games and they start, oh, wait a second, who else maybe can go play over there? Who else can be a part of that? That could be driving a lot of people going back to MLB to get more into the games to maybe kind of feed into that. So even though Baseball United is picking up steam on their end and doing great things for their league they're creating, I think they're kind of helping MLB a little bit. We're driving a little bit more attention back to the MLB to try to figure out who's the next guy that can maybe sign with the Baseball United crew.
Yeah,
David,
yeah, that's a great point.
Would you say that's comparable maybe to when David Beckham came to play Major League Soccer?
It could be. It could be because you draw in the fans that you normally probably wouldn't have, right? You're getting more people from. I mean, that's the whole point of Baseball United is to get a billion fans in the Far East, right? In South Asia. So who's to say that those people are now not watching Major League Baseball or trying to get into, and Major League Baseball has done a lot better with social media now and really pushing a lot of stuff. Actually, before, the season, I saw job opportunities for more social media for teams. And I know they've had that, but there's more of it. I mean, we know that. If we're not on social media every single day, no one's paying attention to what we're doing. You have to be out there. And I think MLB is really pushing hard on that. And I think if they look at where they're getting their ratings from, it would be interesting to see if a lot of it's coming from way overseas.
Yep, that would be interesting. That would might be worth an article, right?
Yeah.
An
interview.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Next topic: call-ups, minor league performances, that type of thing, right? So there's been a number of big names that have been called up so far this year. Most of them aren't really, have been called up and got the hype and haven't really caught fire yet, right? But Jack Caglianone comes to mind. The Red Sox just brought up Roman Anthony. The Angels just brought up Christian Moore. Is there anybody that caught your eye, guys, or that either somebody you've noticed that has been called up that's doing well, or somebody that maybe you can see being called up before the end of the season, that would be an interesting person to follow.
Oh, I'll start on the one that I think we were just talking about. Just real, I have a short one, and you guys can really touch on that. It's just Augustine Ramirez. The crazy thing, he was involved in the trade for Jazz Chisholm with the Yankees and the Marlins back in last July, and now he's leading rookies with 10 home runs. Catching
That's
for the
great.
Marlins. I mean, you don't know when you get lightning in the bottle, right? You don't know what's going to happen. Normally, a lot of these trades where you get the big names coming over, some of these youngsters don't get going for a while. Like you realize that, oh, it's just a throw-in, or he was just a throw-in. It wasn't like a top prospect, really, that that people are like, oh man, I can't wait for him to come up. He's gonna, the Marlins, where are they going? They're playing a lot of the younger players. They're not really. They don't have any major guys. They sold away all their major guys years ago, right? So they don't really have a team that's really going anywhere. But I just saw that was an interesting part, that he's actually leading in home runs and doing fairly well. He's not, if you look at average, it's not there. I mean, maybe it is for it's a catcher, 242, not really lighting up that way. But hey, 10 home runs and doing fairly well in his first full season. So I just thought that was an interesting one.
Yeah, that's good. It was a good note. I do remember that trade for Chisholm, and I remember last year Ramirez being a hot name in the minors. He had caught fire in the Yankee system, and I was a little surprised they traded him, but I guess they got some depth there, and they needed somebody to to get across the finish line, which helped them.
Yep.
Last season. So, Jeremy, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I've got two recent call-ups that I wanted to bring up. First, the White Sox, with definitely a ton of help from the Cardinals, called up Robert Prevost to fill the essential position of Bishop of Rome for the Catholic Church.
That's true. There you go. Yes, the White Sox fan.
You threw me off.
Were you trying to go on Baseball Reference and look up Robert Prevost?
No, I was looking up. You said the Cardinals, and I'm just like,
yeah, the Cardinals. Yeah,
that was a good one, Jeremy.
Good, Jeremy.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, that for sure, and I'm Catholic, so I can make that joke.
Okay.
But yeah, the actual prospect I wanted to talk about was so Mick Abel debuted a few weeks ago for the Phillies. He kind of, in my opinion anyway, and in terms of his media coverage, in terms of hearing about him, he kind of fell off the radar in the minors. Honestly, over the past year and a half, he's been overshadowed in terms of discussion of Phillies prospects by Andrew Painter, the pitcher who may be debuting in about a month or two after his Tommy John recovery, and newer prospects like Aiden Miller and Justin Crawford. But Mick Abel has done quite well in his a few starts so far. In fact, defeated Paul Skeens in a pitcher's duel on his major league debut. And I think if I remember right, he struck out 9, which was tied for the record for at least Phillies pitchers in his debut. And the Phillies, with their situation right now, even despite the Aaron Nola injury, and he just had a setback the other day, the Phillies may have an abundance of starting pitching when it comes to the trade deadline.
Hey, if you want to ship some guys over to the Mets, we need some arms. I know it's not going to happen between the two of us, but I'm just saying.
Right.
I don't know, I'm not between the two of us, but maybe despite the division rivalry, there's a way in which Uncle Steve and John Middleton might talk to each other. Considering they're both unicorns in the sports ownership world of being lifelong fans who happen to become rich enough to own the teams that they grew up rooting for.
So, and we'll talk about that in another episode because we got a couple of years before he retires, but. There might be a pitcher on your team that's retiring in a few years. We'll take him back and let him retire as a Met. So we'll it's Wheeler, Brian.
That's funny. I'm gonna just name a couple of guys. Um, Caglianone came up with the Royals, probably the biggest hyped prospect to come up in a while. He was obviously a college baseball star with the University of Florida. He actually pitched in college too and was a decent pitcher. I don't know that he's going to do it in the pros. He had 15 home runs in the minors prior to being called up. He still has not hit one. So he's played 13 games. His batting average is below 200. So not a hot start for Caglianone, but he obviously has that potential. So he'll be interesting to see what he's up to. The Red Sox called up Roman Anthony, who was I believe he was the number 1 ranked prospect in baseball when they called him up. So we'll get into that in a minute when we talk about the trade, but the Red Sox have made it clear they called up they had 3 prospects in the top 10 coming into the season. They've called up every guy. So the Red Sox are definitely playing the futures game. They're going to let these guys play it out and see what happens. Another prospect I'm really interested in seeing how he does. This is another college baseball star, Christian Moore. He played for Tennessee last year, won the national championship. And this year, he just got called up by the Angels, I believe, like 2 days ago. So he really don't have a good sample size of what he's been able to do. But he was an incredibly athletic college baseball player. He played second base mostly in college or middle infield. I'm not sure where they have him right now. But I'm kind of got my eye on Christian Moore and what he's capable of. In terms of minor league guys, though, really fixated on what the Tigers system is doing with some of the Kevin McGonigal is kind of risen in the ranks of prospects. He's currently in West Michigan. He's hitting 410 or 412. And multiple games with 3-4 hits. Real run production. Of course, Max Clark is there too. The Tigers farm system is about as good as the MLB team right now. So kind of interesting to see they don't need that. The thing about the Tigers is
they don't need help.
They're not going to bring anybody up because they don't need to right now. They're not, I mean, they kind of float some guys between Toledo and Detroit, but those top prospects in their system right now aren't coming up this year.
It's kind of interesting.
It'll be interesting to see what they do in the minors this season.
That's an interesting thing is that the MLB team is doing great and we're doing great, but we want to go up. We want to be called up. And how long do I wait to get on the show if I can't get in the show right now?
That's
almost
the
like
hard part
trade
about
me.
minor league baseball, right? That's the life is that you want to go up. Now, though, I wouldn't say I don't mean they're not going to call.
No, yeah, but
it's not
there's not a big
they'll
call
go up
for
to
them
Double
if
A.
they're doing
They'll
well.
go up to wherever. They're just not going to get called up to the big leagues this year, most likely.
September. Maybe a September call up. Give a guy an opportunity. Maybe. I mean, depending on
you never know
on his status with the team, but how many.
You never know, but yeah, a lot of exciting stuff. And David, you and I have talked recently. Legends on Deck wants to get back to kind of its roots in a lot of ways. When you started the site, so much of this was about the prospects, the guys coming up through the system, the draft picks, the guys that are grinding it out in the minor leagues, trying to break through to the majors. Yep. So we want to kind of recast that image for LOD.
Yeah, and we're going to try to put more articles out on that. I mean, that was our niche. That was something that we really, reason why I went to Legends on Deck was because of the minor league guys, was because of, when they, if everyone knows I covered the Mets for a long time, a couple of years back in the day, and I wanted to see guys go to other teams and kind of see what they did. And I think we found a lot of diamond in the rough guys. We found a lot of guys that no one thought, and we would put our own spin on it and say, I think this guy, is capable of making the majors, and he did. Some of them didn't, but it was a lot of times people did not know who these guys were. And, we got a lot of respect from the players as well because, we we gave them a platform that no one talks about. Everyone wants to know about the major league guys. Everybody wants to know what the Otanis and the Judges are doing. But you know what? Except for Otani, Judge started in the minor leagues, right? So Judge started someplace and had to make a name for himself. I want to touch on one thing. One guy that I didn't even think about until now is the third Acuna. So there's another Acuna in the minors. You got Ronald with the Braves. You got Luis Angel with the Mets, and you got their brother Brian. And I actually went to the Muscles game yesterday. Real good shortstop. Very defensively, good glove. Didn't really. I think I was actually gonna be part of one of the games on the field, and I sent the video out on social media. I played a game with my son, and my buddy, his son, played this game. So I was distracted, so I didn't see it first at bat, and then the rains came and canceled the game. But he's batting 350, got moved up to low A ball from rookie ball, and he looks like another Acuna star. And I'm gonna keep my eyes on him. I have an article just kind of introducing him a little bit to the site of who he is, but you never know. That family, they got baseball in the blood. I mean, the dad played in the Mets system, didn't get to the majors, but the other two sons are studs. We know what Ronald does. We know what we see the speedster his other brother with the Mets is doing. So I think Brian it would be an amazing thing to see. It may take a couple of years for him to get up. He's in low A ball, but it's just another family of baseball, of family name, right? That's out there. You have the Griffeys, you got the Boones, you got all these different the Bonds. You have all these different names. Maybe the Acuñas are the ones that are gonna take over for the next generation.
Yeah, great point. I actually, what I wanted to touch on this when we talked about the Braves a little bit, but Acuña's comeback from his injury has been incredible.
Yeah,
I mean, he looks better. Like, so he went down with the ACL injury in 2021, came back in 2022. He looked okay in 2022. I think he hit 15 home runs. He had like 280. He had a decent season. He got me at the All-Star game because he was Acuna, right? But he came back this year. I mean, he's been back only since what I want to say like May 24th, something
games,
like that. Less than a month, 7 home runs. Looks amazing. Looks great. I don't know. I haven't seen his most updated batting average, but he had several hits last night.
Like 392 right now.
And he made an incredible play in right field in the late innings of the game last night, where he scaled the wall. So
yeah,
no
that wasn't incredible
for him.
That wasn't incredible for me. He took a hit away from
me.
Okay. Then the umpire.
Yeah, I know. He potentially
umpire,
robbed Pete Alonso either a home run or at least a double.
And the umpire didn't call it. Then we get doubled up. So it was a nice play. I'll give it to him. He leaped when he probably wouldn't have leaped before with his ankles, so he's good.
Yeah, you just never know how somebody's going to come back from those kind of injuries. And it appears at this point Acuna hasn't lost anything from that injury. Some other baseball news that is.
Can I ask a question about the Acuñas and the prospects?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I had forgotten that there's 3 Acuna brothers. And the one still in the minors, as you were bringing up, David. So as far as I understand, because I was confused because I've heard that there's another Acuna brother that's good, but then I looked at the Acuna that's, what does he play for, the Nationals or something, and he's not good. So
I think the reports say that there was a Kenny that had agreed to deal with the Phillies.
Okay,
but I couldn't find any other information on him, so I wasn't sure what age he is, or
we got to figure out how many Acuna brothers there actually are.
Yeah, there's a Kenny Acuna, but I didn't see anything really on him. Maybe I didn't dig deep enough, but we'll see where he ends up.
We'll get to the bottom of it. We'll have there's a YouTube video out there. My son was watching, and it had like the family Acuna baseball tree, and it broke down all the different, there's cousins and all kinds of guys in that web involved in the game somehow.
Oh yeah. He's from that town. from the
Yeah,
time. There's
yeah,
a
yeah.
web we're all related.
Right, right. They're all related somehow. It was pretty interesting. It's hard to keep up with.
Well,
Um,
here, I found one thing. There's a back in last year's season, USA Today put out an article that a 12-year-old brother of Ronald Acuna verbally agrees to sign with the Phillies. 12 years old.
Hmm.
12 years old. Is this going to be the one that takes over and becomes a super stud?
I thought it was. I thought you couldn't sign with teams internationally too, or 16. They're signing at 12 now.
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
Well, it'll be official when so they kind of just linked
Oh,
him.
they
So
kind of like lock him in, and then they make
yeah,
it. Yeah, yeah. I
when
get
he's
it.
eligible to sign in 2028.
Always
So
a way around that,
they just
right?
locked him in for the next 6 years.
Yeah. Now he's got to finish sixth grade first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like the
But-
bagmen before NIL came in.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Rafael Devers was traded from the Red Sox. We were talking Red Sox prospects, how disappointing their season has been. Rafael Devers gets sent to the San Francisco Giants, who are one of the surprise teams this year. Or at least surprised to us. Somebody may have saw them coming, but we didn't.
We didn't.
No.
So what's your take on those transactions, that transaction particularly, and is it going to spur a frenzy of trades here in the coming month?
We'll let Jeremy go first on that one.
Yeah. Well, I have a very dear friend who is a committed Red Sox fan, and I would be remiss if I didn't read a quote that my friend sent me. Right when the news came out, which is that FSG, which is Fenway Sports Group, FSG has just really burnt goodwill it didn't have to spare, and the whole thing feels avoidable. There's a track record now. Mookie Betts was traded to the Dodgers. Xander Bogaerts walked in free agency. And of their core from the 2018 World Series team, now Rafael Devers is gone, and he was the last one really. A lot of fans are furious because they feel that the Red Sox squandered a championship window, which honestly, to me, seems strikingly similar to what the Cubs did after their 2016 World Series team. And the timing was also kind of weird in that they had just swept the Yankees at Fenway right before the trade. And more than anything, with what's coming out, not just from my friend, but from it seems the Boston fan base in general, is just the sheer disrespect shown towards a guy that had been with their team since he was about 16 years old, and is and he just got shoved aside, from away from his position, and now away from the team itself. So kind of like a self-inflicted wound. Although, and he's done well this year offensively, playing as DH, but I don't like the contract. Like I can't blame the Red Sox too much. He's 28. He's got 10 years left on that deal. And where he is relative to where the rest of the team is, it seems that, by the time the rest of the team is ready to compete, he's not going to be at his peak anymore. Quite potentially, especially with how the rest of the team has been doing this year, which has been very disappointing compared to what a lot of people, ourselves included, thought the Red Sox would do this year. And he's only going to go down in value, which again is, and this is the last thing I'll say, the trade seems bizarre because apparently nobody knows who any of these four prospects are. They're there's been memes going around, that they basically just pick, random guys, like, the Red Sox told the Giants, in the meme, of course, but, hey, yeah, we want 4 guys, any 4 guys, you pick.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll put my take on my spin on that because I'm a little bit more. I saw this, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but I kind of saw this coming. Everybody say, "Oh, they're not going to trade him. Not going to trade him." I felt like they were, and they should have traded him to the Mets. That's what I thought. I thought we could have grabbed him, and I would have given up all our young Met players and just put him in the middle of that lineup and DH, third base, whatever. We would have figured out something for him. My sources on that end, which on the within that world, they were disrespectful to him. It was totally wrong what they did to him. You pull your star to the side and say, hey, we want to sign Bregman. And initial reports, he's going to play second base, right? That was a lie. It was a fabricated lie, not to spin things out of control, because then you're going to have people upset. It was, and I'm not saying that's what the sources said. My sources were that it was just a shock for him, and he was upset by it. Yes, he's going to be upset by it. Why wouldn't he be upset by it? I would be upset by it. You bring in a guy, you don't tell me anything, and all of a sudden, okay, like he said, we're going to take the glove away from you. You don't need this anymore. You're going to DH. Okay, he's not a gold glove third baseman, but he's been consistently with the bat. Okay, he's a superstar. You don't treat him that way. Then, Tristan Casas goes down, and they tell him, oh, now you're going to go first base. And he said no. And I am glad he stood up for himself. Big Papi the other day, tell him, no, if they're paying you, then you got to keep your mouth shut. No, it doesn't work that way. You're a superstar. Okay, I'm not saying you got to talk up and speak against your boss, but you got to stand up for what you believe. Okay, you're not just a puppet or someone they just put out there at any moment, just play here, play there. No, like he said, I never play first base. I'm going to go embarrass. Remember, this game's also mental, right? Now, I believe 95% of the game is mental. If you're not mentally right, you're not going to play well. He was not mentally right for the first 20 at-bats. He went 19 at-bats, went 0 for 19 with 15 strikeouts. He was just messed up in his head, wondering, like, what the heck is going on here? Why they treat me like this? Like Jeremy said, I've been with them since I was a kid. So they do this, and I feel like the trade was more so okay, you want to like not do what we're going to tell you to do? We're going to just get rid of you for whatever. They literally gave him up. They were willing to give him up for nothing, was what they got back. Okay? Just toss them to the side with the ideas, we'll get, the rookies will come up and do well and stuff. Yeah, well, not right now, because he could have carried them for a while. Like you said, they just swept the Yankees. He could have carried them for a while until the Bregman came back, until maybe they can make Moshida comes back. Somebody make a decision on what they're going to do. They just tossed him to the side. They didn't care. They treated him so badly. I feel like, that's a bad omen for your organization. And I'm not saying he's Babe Ruth, but who knows? Maybe they trade him away and they never win a World Series ever again. Because he's the last one on the team, I think, that won the World Series with the Red Sox, right? So maybe this becomes the omen, the bad. You trade Devers away and that's it. You never win again because of how they treated him. So I hope he excels. He had a great game. Good game last night, 2 for 5. I got RBI. They welcomed him like he was a star. Man, I don't know if you saw it on social media. They had he came through the outfield fence and they had all the smoke flying and everybody was, welcoming him into the team. He walks in from the outfield, and you know what? You just want to be a part of that. He was part of that before, but I don't know what's going on with the Red Sox. I don't know if it's. I think there's new ownership there, new people there, and I don't even like the way the manager handled it. I think they just handled it really wrong, and I think the trade was, they probably could have got more for him. Obviously, they went to the Mets. They probably could have got a lot more for him. This was more like a dump. And that the Red Sox are taking over the contract. Like the the Giants are taking over the contract. Like they're going to pay off the contract. That was amazing that, Buster Posey over there is doing – he's just trying to make them competitive, and I think that it was a great pickup. I know I have a lot to say about it, and I kind of go over my time here. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
It's fine. I was a little passionate about this because I just did not like the way they treated him. I think that was just so wrong. He's a superstar, and he deserves a little more respect than what they did. So, if anything, if we had a game that we can play that thumbs down to any teams, that's my thumbs down to the Red Sox. Horrible what they did to the man. Sorry,
I get
Brian.
it.
You can go.
Yo, you're fine. You're fine. I'm not going to say a whole lot else on the topic. I think you guys covered it. I was surprised when they signed Bregman, or that when the Bregman sweepstakes were kind of going on, that the Red Sox were had so desired bringing Bregman in. I'm like, what were they going to do with Devers, right? I think the Red Sox, as far as I can tell, are going with the youth movement, as I mentioned before. They're calling up their prospects. They're going to let them develop. They're writing off the season, but who knows? Like, this is what the Tigers did this last year, and the Tigers made it to the second round of the postseason. So, did the Red Sox get hot and make that happen? Obviously a good move for Devers. He's going to a really good team right now. And like you said, seems very welcome there. And the Giants just got a lot, they got a lot better offensively with bringing Devers in. So
Well,
maybe they'll give the
they didn't
Dodgers
win
a
their
run.
first game, so I think maybe giving up the 2 pitches hurt. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
maybe. I don't know.
but
Maybe they
hopefully
give the
it turns it
Dodgers a
around.
run. Maybe that the Giants keep making moves there.
Yeah.
And that could be. So yeah, you guys covered most of that. All right, so I got a final topic. I had the privilege, the pleasure of attending an event on Monday in Orlando, not far from me, about 20-minute drive over to iDrive, which is the entertainment district of Orlando, where SeaWorld is located and near where Universal is located, and the Orange County Convention Center and all the hotels. And there was a group of investors that goes by the name the Orlando Dreamers, that is interested in bringing Major League Baseball to Orlando. It involves a serious financial commitment, and they've named Barry Larkin, Hall of Fame shortstop, as the head of their group. Larkin was there. Larkin answered a lot of questions, as well as the business guys involved in the deal. I've got 2 articles out on Legends on Deck on the topic. I have my own opinion. You could read those opinions in there, but I can elaborate a little bit. But I'll get your guys' take first. What are your thoughts on Orlando getting a baseball team, whether by I guess the debate was, or not the debate, but the most likely scenario is relocation, and most likely the Tampa Bay Rays, who are now out of a stadium deal. They did discuss the idea of expansion in Orlando, and they did discuss the idea, the third way would be to get an addition or another team to relocate to Orlando, which apparently they alluded to the fact there could be other teams looking. So, Jeremy, I know you said you were very interested in this topic. I'm going to start with you.
Sure. All right. So, let's see. First of all, I'm not surprised in the slightest that St. Petersburg and putting, either renovating Tropicana or putting in a new ballpark has been, a total disaster. Because honestly, the St. Petersburg location for the team is a total disaster. Now, you're obviously much closer to the area, but in terms of, traffic and in terms of population distribution, nobody wants to go over, that stinking bridge to,
Right.
to go there. There's, basically one way in, one way out. So unless you live in St. Petersburg or, right outside, maybe like Clearwater, they could, that's, a big part of their attendance problems and, et cetera. Honestly, on the other side of Hillsborough County, there's a lot of available land too. If they wanted to go in that direction, and if St. Petersburg obviously is in Pinellas, but Hillsborough, of course, is where Tampa itself is located. and they, maybe they'll do that. But honestly, I would be very much in favor of the Orlando Dreamers. I think that it can get done. They've really put together a good coalition when it comes to the faces and the names involved. You talked about Barry Larkin, obviously. I'm going to talk just briefly a little bit about John Morgan, the famous attorney from the Morgan & Morgan commercials nationwide. But what a lot of people who don't realize is that John Morgan himself is, first of all, a lot less of a lawyer and especially a lot less of a litigator than he is an expert entrepreneur and marketer and executive.
True.
Because Morgan & Morgan itself really is much more of a sales funnel they make their money as a firm, much more from referrals to actual local law firms in your area. And second, because he's done so well, he actually is a huge business owner, investor in a variety of businesses in Central Florida, especially, but throughout Florida, different real estate holdings, hotels, apartments, etc. So he really knows the real estate game. And also, he is a unique political power center in the state of Florida. There's been some recent shakeups in Tallahassee and related things that Brian and I will talk about off the air. But Morgan is very well known in Florida as someone who's very influential because he's very bipartisan with his contributions. He's personally a Democrat, but he also gives a lot to especially more of like the Republicans that appeal to like the business community, the Chamber of Commerce types. So he's got friends on both sides of the aisle. And Orlando is like even without his involvement is a huge opportunity for Major League Baseball. In a variety of ways, one of which I'll also highlight, which in comparison to the potential move for the Athletics to Las Vegas, that business model of people going as tourists, especially families, is way more viable in Orlando than in Las Vegas. The raw tourist numbers in Orlando are a lot bigger than Las Vegas, and the types of people who want to go to a sporting event, especially a baseball event, much more of a family environment. You can get the various kinds of people that come to Las Vegas for different things. Like, you can make it plausible that, maybe they'll go to an NFL game, even just for the experience and especially if their team's playing, but, not really a baseball environment nearly as much. Orlando, you can definitely make a strong case for, the types of tourists that come to Orlando and being people that would go. As well they're in the Rays are already in the AL East. There's so many transplants from the Northeast down in Florida as it is. Yankees fans, Red Sox fans. Even people from Maryland.
Absolutely. Yeah, that whole division is ripe for, Canadians too. That whole division is just ripe for bringing in fan bases beyond, the fan base that the local fan base the team could attract. The one thing David will know this, being a Floridian, so many, and being a Mets fan, right? So many people in Florida being transplants, being from the Northeast or being from the Midwest. You bring a lot of those loyalties with you, and that would drive a huge number of attendance. Orlando's one of those places where we have a very balanced relocation population. more so than I would say on the west. David, bound by you, there's a lot more people from the Midwest, and on the East Coast, there's a lot more people from the East Coast. So you do have Orlando kind of brings all that together. So you just got a big opportunity from, like you say, from not just tourists, which I agree with you. I never even thought of that, being that Orlando is actually a better spot for tourism for families and potential baseball fans than Vegas would be. Plus, it's a larger population. The local population of metropolitan Orlando is probably double or triple what Las Vegas's is.
Yeah.
So 15th biggest media market in the country. It's basically swapping and you don't lose the Tampa media market because they are primary and secondary markets of each other. We've got the Magic in Orlando. Tampa doesn't have a NBA team, right? So people in Tampa, if they're following a basketball team, it might be the Magic, right? If you're, they have the Lightning in the NHL in Tampa. Orlando doesn't have a professional hockey team. So there's kind of like this trade-off, right? So between Tampa and Orlando, it's all goes across Central Florida. Not to mention the number of people from the Tampa area. I was having this discussion the other day, and I said the amount of influx of people visiting Orlando from Tampa is much larger than the influx of people visiting Tampa from Orlando, because of the theme parks and all the entertainment options. So to me, and obviously I'm in favor of it as a local resident and a baseball fan, and I would love to see an MLB team locally. But even from an outsider perspective, I got to say that it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I have one other spin I'd like to put on it. But I'd like to, wait on that if we want to turn things over to David.
Yeah.
Well, Brian and I talk about this all the time. Legends on Deck has become a big proponent of baseball in Orlando with high school, with collegiate summer leagues. And, if I'm comparing two cities of Tampa and Orlando, I think Orlando is baseball minded. Everyone, there's so much baseball there. There's so many guys that have played Major League Baseball that come from the Orlando area, outskirts. I just think it's a no-brainer. You put a team there, and you're going to draw fans. You're going to have a fan base that's going to be strong. They're going to be, it's going to be stronger than Miami because not many people go to those games. I'm looking at the renderings of the stadium. It's amazing. I wasn't probably paying attention too much before with the stadium aspect. It's just another thing you put in Orlando that, you have the Disney parks, you have the new Universal Park, you have the SeaWorld, you have so many things that, and then people love baseball. I just think it's a no-brainer to do that. I want to touch a little bit on the Vegas aspect. They're putting teams in Vegas, and Vegas is more of the gambling. Adults go there and stuff, and people are gonna go there. I think it just has that feel. Like you put a baseball stadium in Orlando with all the other attractions, it just becomes another major attraction. The only thing I'm gonna say with people coming from Tampa, I've driven I-4, and I so thank God my son did not go to UCF because there's no way in heck I was be driving I-4. They're gonna have to build a different road to get to the stadium if they can, because you're going to have to leave like 3 hours before if you're on the other side of Orlando just to get to the stadium. But I want to ask Brian, I'm looking at the map, where are they going to situate the stadium? Where are they looking at? Is it right by SeaWorld?
It would be, So it would be adjacent to SeaWorld on the south side of International Drive, is the plan. So the event that I went to the other day was at the Hilton on I-Drive. It was at the south end of I-Drive. It would have been right almost next to or down the road from the Hilton there. The thing I like about it, the thing I don't like about it is that traffic you're talking about. The thing I do like the most about it is I think what the Atlanta Braves did with their stadium in the north suburbs of Atlanta was the smartest baseball stadium building move that anyone could have done, because they took it. I know there's always been this concept of build in the core of the city, right? Build in the core of the downtown of the city and then try to revive the city around it. And I think that it's great, but I think some of that's wishful thinking. Um, a ballpark itself is not going to revive a struggling neighborhood. Um, you have to build where people want to go or build around the stadium so that people want to go there, right? So the Braves did that, right? They took a business district in Cobb County, north of Atlanta, that was already active and vibrant. And there were malls and there were businesses and there's office space and all that, right? And then they put a ballpark there, and then they built restaurants and bars and theaters and stuff around it and hotels. And it's easy to get in, it's safe, all of that. So what Orlando has is iDrive is an entertainment district, right? It's like the Vegas Strip, but it's not the Vegas Strip quite. But it is that's the idea. The convention center is there, so you've got convention goers for all the professional conferences. You've got SeaWorld, you've got Universal Studios, and then you've got hotel after hotel after hotel. So in my opinion, it's like instead of like worrying about building the entertainment district, they have the entertainment district and they're just putting a stadium there to connect with the entertainment district. So it only enhances the atmosphere. I do worry about traffic, but I guess that's true for anything there. You're going to gather a whole lot of people. But I think it's realistic. I think ultimately what I think it is it's realistic. Because of the situation that the Rays are in. And they have zero prospects for a ballpark right now after that hurricane and repairing Tropicana. I'm going this weekend. They're playing the Tigers at George Steinbrenner Field. I'm going to both games Saturday and Sunday. I'm looking forward to that because I get to watch Major League Baseball in a stadium that holds 10,000 people. Hopefully it doesn't rain. But it's not a long-term fix. It's a short-term Band-Aid for them. They need a long-term solution. And it doesn't sound like Pinellas County and St. Petersburg is going to happen. They're back to square one in the stadium search. And then you have this group of investors, well-known people, and well-connected people that are saying, hey, move like an hour and a half down the road and we could put this deal together for you. It just seems to make too much sense. Beyond that, I know that the team, the Dreamers group was very, very much not. They were trying to make sure that they weren't trying to tell that the Rays are the only option, right? They want to bring the Rays. They're not saying, "Hey, Rays, come here. Rays, come here." They don't want to interfere in that process. They just want to make Orlando attractive to baseball. That's probably a lot of inside politics there.
Well,
If the Rays settle in Tampa, I think the chances of Orlando getting a team goes way down. Expansion, is it too close? Of a city to each other. Yeah, potentially.
Well, I have a thought on that.
Yeah.
I just looked on the map. The Mets and the Yankees are 31 minutes away from each other. It is two different boroughs.
That's not a bad argument considering the fact that Central Florida has exploded the way that it has. Right? So could they host the second team in Central Florida? Sure. I think the issue is that the Rays and the Marlins have not proven that professional baseball thrives in this environment. They're different cities. I understand Miami is a different city than Tampa, is a different city than Orlando. But for whatever reason, their attendance in either the St. Petersburg or in Miami have not been strong. So there might be concern of putting a third Florida team in that might not.
I think it's where they're putting the teams. I never really felt like Miami was more of a basketball town, football town. You talk to people from Miami, they're Marlin fans, but they're more basketball fans. They're more football fans. If you go to, you talk to people in Tampa, you got the Rays, but then what else is there? They got the hockey. Well, they got hockey.
The Lightning are pretty popular.
So they're more popular than anything else. it's 2 hours away from Orlando to Tampa. So that's a big difference than what, you would see in New York City, where you have the only two baseball teams up there. And I get it's a bigger city, but I just think that the demographics that you have in Orlando and the fact that we talk about this all the time, baseball is a hotbed in Orlando. I think they've been looking at the wrong cities when they put teams in Florida. I think they're missing out on an opportunity to put a team in a city that I feel is going to grow, just because of
Well,
what baseball means to the city.
it is growing and continues to grow. I mean, the Orlando suburbs are explosive in terms of economic growth and relocations and new building and all
I think
that.
also baseball fans. I just think the fact that
And fans, yeah,
the Collegiate Summer League and the high school
right.
teams and the guys who have come playing Major League Baseball that are from that area, I
Sure.
think MLB's if they were to use that argument, I think it's a bad argument because Orlando is a whole different animal than you would think any other city in Florida. I think they
Yeah,
just have
you could
more of
be right.
attraction to have a team there based on what baseball means to the Orlando area. I know the Orlando Magic is huge there. I went to a game and it was packed, but I think
Yep.
that baseball in Orlando is bigger than what people think. And I think we have found out that way just by us
Yeah, at the
covering the teams.
grassroots level, right?
Yeah.
We've learned that at the grassroots level. I will say that too, and that is one of the arguments that they make, and I think make well, is that both the Magic and the MLS Orlando City soccer team do very well attendance wise,
Yeah.
and have a very strong following in the city. Um, so the whole suburban area, right? So they're both have a really good following. I think Orlando as a city, as a community, as a, 3 or 4 county area, whatever you want to consider Orlando area to be, um, can support another professional sports franchise very easily.
Yeah, I believe so.
You think they'll get some fans from the East Coast too, like Daytona or something? Is that
well,
is that kind of a similar drive to from like Clearwater or something?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a great point too. So you have the East Coast towns like Daytona Beach, Cocoa Beach, those areas. Daytona is kind of its own metropolitan area, and those are counties with sizable populations. It's easier. Obviously, it would be very difficult for them to get to the other side of the state to go watch the Rays. But just the central location of Orlando brings in those eastern counties that like Broward, or I'm sorry, not Broward, but Brevard County and Volusia, which is Daytona, brings them more into the fold as well. So that's a good point, Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean Melbourne is exploding right now. That's just a
Yep.
hop, skip, and a jump from
Yep.
from the Orlando area. And the other thing is be interesting is if they land a team. I mean, obviously they land the Rays, you get the affiliates. But if they land a brand new team, who the affiliates would be, where you can put them in Florida to kind of keep them closer, and maybe join in on the Florida State League or the AAA with the jumbo shrimp, So I really feel like there's a hotbed of. I'm telling you, I don't know. Maybe you should really jump on this and help them push it. Harder than what you're doing. Maybe we all do it.
I'm trying. I'm trying to cover as much as I can. But that's another good point. I thought about this, and I was talking to some guys that I was sitting with at the media table the other day, and my argument our discussion was, well, the Rays, I know they currently do their spring training in Port Charlotte, but if they move to Orlando, why not? One opportunity Orlando could have is just keep spring training in Orlando, right? Just have the Rays be the only team that actually does spring training in and around their own facility. They could even build outside practice fields if they have the space to do it, or do it at a local build a more local park that facilitates the spring training and the corporate offices and other things like that related to the team.
Probably will be the first team to do that.
Right, they would be the first and only team to do that. So that was something. It wasn't mentioned. They weren't talking about that at all. It was just kind of speculation on my account that I was discussing with some people that I was sitting with. So there's a lot of different potential opportunities with an Orlando Rays or an Orlando Dreamers or whatever the name. That was another point Larkin made. The team name isn't really set, right? The Dreamers is the name of the
organization,
the investment group pushing the call for baseball in Orlando. It isn't necessarily the name of the team. It could end up being the Rays. If the Rays relocate, it could be something different.
Yep.
Yeah. Could I bring up that other thing that I was holding in my back pocket about the Dreamers?
Jeremy.
Yeah, just I was holding it because this is a little bit more bigger picture than just Orlando. But I think there are 4 markets that make a lot of sense to me for a new team. Las Vegas, Orlando, Nashville, and Salt Lake City. But there are only 2 teams available, Rays and Athletics.
Right.
Expansion would require rearranging divisions or having uneven divisions. But this with the playoff expansion, and the NFL, when they got to 32, they made 4 divisions, and that's worked out really well. So it is doable. And there's no longer really a taboo of teams switching leagues anymore. Since the Astros did it, and there's the balanced schedule now. And Portland, Oregon is also a contender, so maybe that's 5. But I don't really talk about that because I have personal negative feelings about some people connected to Portland that are not involved with baseball.
Yeah.
So for non-baseball reasons, I don't want a team in Portland. But
I don't know if Portland's they keep saying it, and it seems like they campaign for a team. I don't know if that's a growing city or if it's a shrinking city. I have no. It seems a little bit. It doesn't seem like Portland is the attractive option it used to be for relocation of people on the West Coast. I feel like Vegas and Salt Lake City, as you mentioned, and Phoenix have kind of taken over that mantle.
Yeah, you don't want to put a team in the middle of. I mean, just because an area wants it, if like we've been talking about the fan base, or people haven't been. I mean, going there and filled up. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just biased because I want a team in Florida better than the Marlins. But
yeah. I mean, and I think well, Manfred's point, and I've read everything that Manfred's put out on this because I'm so interested in the issue, but his point is the Rays have to settle their stadium disputes or their instability first, right? So whatever happens with the Rays is the first step. So if the Rays come to Orlando, then Orlando's got its team, right? If the Rays have to relocate, but it's not to Orlando, then maybe it's Nashville, or maybe it's Salt Lake City. I don't know, but then the other step to that is that opens then, or Manfred has said he wants 2 expansion teams after the Rays have settled their stadium dispute. Or their stadium, say dispute. They don't really have a dispute. They just have no plan. But so Orlando does have a second shot at expansion, should the Rays move out of Tampa and move somewhere else, I think. Then that makes Orlando a key market. It wouldn't make sense, in my opinion, for the Rays to go move to Nashville when they can move across I-4.
Yeah.
And frankly, I know Nashville's an exploding area as well, but it's still not as big as Orlando in market size. So it just if they don't get their deal settled in the Tampa area, Orlando is the most logical, most attractive option for them, and it may be more attractive and a better option than even staying in the Tampa area. So. No offense to Tampa people. I will drive over there. I'm driving over there this weekend to go to Tampa to go to some ball games. But I think the case is
listen. If people want a team to stay, then they gotta pack their stadium.
Yeah, you got to pack it out.
If it's the Yankees, and the Red Sox is packed, If it's not,
Yep.
there's no one in the stadium. So you can't argue the fact of you want a stadium to stay there, you want a team to stay, but then you don't pack your own stadium. Like you got to go watch the games.
Yeah. Right.
If not, then drive the an hour to 2 hours over to Orlando, and they'll pack the stadium. I mean, it has to be, it has to make sense, and I hope the Rays come to the decision soon because they want to fix the roof, but they really have no home. It's
Right.
not making sense for long term. St. Pete is a nice area, but it's just not a baseball city, and I just think it's a no-brainer. We just got to get they got to get moving on this because then it just holds back everybody else. Atlanta Dreamers can't do anything unless the Rays make a decision. Then they may need to just move forward because the Rays, when are they going to make the decision? When are they going to move? It's a standstill pretty much. Listen, I know you were going to the game this weekend. I don't know. I watched the games on TV with the Rays, and it just doesn't feel like a major league game. Like
Well,
it,
it's
it, it
not.
feel,
It's at a minor league ballpark.
yeah, I know that, but it doesn't
Um,
feel like a major league game. It feels
right,
like
right,
it
right,
feels like a spring training game or something. It doesn't feel real.
right. Well, I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing a game of
Oh
that
yeah,
because
definitely,
when
definitely.
we were looking at seats, I was like, well, we can sit anywhere here. I've been here. We can sit anywhere. And it's going to be a good seat. So,
Is the price
um,
point different than the front and the back?
it is actually, yeah. I'm like, well, what's the difference? It doesn't make it. That's why I said. That's why I didn't. I'm like, we're not going to spring for high end seats because I'm only sitting a few rows behind if I'm sitting on the 200 section. So, um, anyway,
Yeah.
I know we
looking
got a
forward
little
to
off
that.
track, but I do want to ask one question on that because you're going. If you can keep an eye out, like now is different because you're expecting the Rays Stadium. The Tampa Tarpons, I believe, still play there. So can you kind of see if what do they
They
have like
do.
switching boards? Do they change the name? Every
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I'm interested in how they constructed that schedule because I'm under the understanding that the Rays don't play a ton of home games in July and August.
Hmm.
Um, Due to they did it based on weather accommodations.
Hmm.
So
True.
will
Oh
be
yeah.
interesting
True.
to see how the Tampa Tarpons share what that stadium share looks like.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, well, guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. We've had 5 really great topics, great discussions, a lot of interesting things to talk about. Um, I wouldn't say we've really had any major debates, but we've all given our insight into.
That'll be the next one. This was just a intro.
Yeah, well,
Next
let's next
next
time we'll talk
next time,
about
let's talk
like
about
something we could debate about.
yeah, we can
Yeah,
really go at each other. I think me and Jeremy over there really want to kind of go at it a little bit.
Yeah, Aaron and me too, because
Aaron
we
too.
are.
So
Yeah,
I could just be the moderator, and then you guys could all debate.
We could bring John Rocker back on, ask him if we can get on Barstool and do.
That's true. That's true. Maybe we bring Rocker back on to provide some more
He could be the
insight,
ringleader. He could
and
be he'd be the ringleader and train us and which way we're gonna
he
go
can
at each
teach
other.
us. He can teach us how to tweet.
Yeah.
Um,
mm.
so,
Well, see,
all
Aaron
right,
and I
guys.
first met being buddies and competitors in high school debate.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So, we could have some fun with that. Maybe that's a great idea for a new episode. Why don't we reconvene when Aaron's available and we're all available again, and let's pick hot topics that we have to debate, not just give our insight on. And I'll be happy to moderate.
And don't worry about if we get canceled. If we're up to getting canceled, then that means that a million
It
people
means people
watched
are
out.
paying attention to us.
Yeah.
So I agree. I agree. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to sign off on episode 89. Don't forget to follow us on social media, YouTube, X, uh, Facebook, Instagram, Legends on Deck merch page. With David's all decked out in Legends on Deck gear today. I put my hat somewhere else, but I'm wearing my squeeze hat today. Um, Give us some support, give us some love, give us our feedback, your feedback on our opinions that you heard today in the episode and on social media. We like all comments. We're not offended.
Yeah.
Uh, Episode 89. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.